This is Ron Kelleher with the Inspired Leadership Podcast, episode number 560. Today's episode is entitled, Is Productivity or Fruitfulness More Important in Your Work?
Hello, and welcome to Inspired Leadership, the podcast for Christian leaders in the marketplace who want to be the best leaders they can be. And now your host, Ron Kelleher.
Have you ever found yourself buried in tasks, ticking off to-do lists, yet feeling something is missing in your work? In the modern workplace, two concepts often tussle for supremacy in our minds: productivity and fruitfulness. While seemingly intertwined, they offer distinct insights, especially from a Christian lens. Throughout history, societies have revered hard work and its outcomes. In the Bible, the emphasis is even more pronounced. In ancient Israel, an agrarian society experienced the tangible results of labor, where a rich harvest wasn't just about individual effort, but also a sign of divine favor. The Bible's narratives, therefore, provide a unique duality, celebrating physical productivity while heralding spiritual fruitfulness. A strong work ethic was paramount in these ancient societies. Proverbs 12:24 tells us, "Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor." Meanwhile, Proverbs 14:23 reminds us, "All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty." These aren't just ancient maxims about profound truths. Productivity is entwined with biblical stewardship. We Christians are caretakers of our talents, resources, and opportunities. Embracing productivity means actively realizing God's plan and maximizing His trust in us. Using parables, Christ often conveyed profound truths about work, stewardship, and productivity. Consider the parable of the talents in Matthew 25:14-30. Servants receive resources, and upon the master's return, their productivity is assessed. The parable underscores that God values our diligence in grand and mundane tasks, suggesting our earthly vocations can be pathways to heavenly recognition. Imagine a tree. Its roots, anchored in rich soil, symbolize our core values. Its trunk represents our daily endeavors, and their fruits, our outcomes and impacts. The Bible's message on fruitfulness is analogous. Genesis introduces it with God's command in Genesis 1:28 to be fruitful and multiply. But as the saga unfolds, fruitfulness isn't just about offspring. It becomes a symbol of spiritual growth, abundance, and blessings. Galatians 5:22-3 dives deeper, portraying the fruit of the Spirit. Virtues like love, joy, and patience. These aren't merely passive traits, but active virtues that should echo in our tasks, revealing Christ's presence. Beyond spiritual growth, fruitfulness extends to the wisdom we share, the mentorships we build, and the godly influence we wield. As Jesus highlighted in John 15:8, "By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples." In the dance of Christian work ethics, productivity and fruitfulness move in harmony. They're not adversaries, but pillars of our calling. A Christian author's productivity might be evident in their books, but their fruitfulness shines through the transformations in their readers. A manager might achieve targets in productivity while also nurturing their team's growth, fruitfulness. Balancing productivity and fruitfulness is akin to walking a tightrope. Tipping too much to one side can have unintended consequences. Let's look first at the overemphasis on productivity. There's burnout. Prioritizing productivity alone, especially without purpose, can lead to physical, emotional, and spiritual exhaustion. This burnout isn't just about excessive work, it's about working without understanding or seeking a higher purpose. Another issue with overemphasis on productivity is shallow achievements. Excessively focusing on tangible results can lead to chasing hollow victories, tasks completed solely for the sake of completion rather than meaningful impact. And finally, the third overemphasis on productivity is neglected relationships. In a bid to continuously be productive, we might unintentionally sideline relationships, whether it's with colleagues, family, or even with God. Interpersonal bonds and spiritual connections can wane, diminishing the richness of shared experiences and spiritual growth. And what if there's an overemphasis on fruitfulness? Well, there's missed responsibilities. While seeking profound spiritual outcomes, one might lose sight of everyday responsibilities. Tasks could be postponed or ignored, assuming that intentionality alone is enough, potentially impacting one's reliability in practical scenarios. Second, there's the possibility of over-idealization. Relying solely on fruitfulness might lead to an over-romanticized view of work, where pursuing profound meanings can overshadow the need for tangible results. This can cause disillusionment if expected spiritual and tangible outcomes aren't achieved. And finally, stagnation. Focusing only on tasks' spiritual or relational side might impede skill development or deter one from seeking new opportunities, thinking that the current spiritual insights are enough. The Apostle Paul's life offers insights into melding productivity and fruitfulness. By making tents, he ensured he wasn't a burden to those he was ministering to, showing the value of practical work. Yet his ultimate goal was always spiritual, to spread the gospel and nurture the early church. His life reminds us that while it's vital to be productive and meet our responsibilities, ensuring our endeavors resonate with deeper spiritual meanings and impacts is equally essential. In conclusion, today's leaders must learn to harness the dual gifts of productivity and fruitfulness. Each task is a canvas to achieve and reflect Christ's heart, turning endeavors into testimonies of dedication and spiritual depth. Well, that's it for this week. And as always, questions and comments are welcome. How might a biblical view of productivity and fruitfulness shape your approach to work? I'd love it if you'd come over to the website at ronkelleher.com/episode 560 and leave me a question or a comment. And as always, before we go, I'd like to ask you to do me a quick favor, and that is to hop on over to whatever podcast service you're listening to this on. Leave a ranking for the show and a comment if you wish. It really does help us get the show into the hands of more and more people. So I thank you in advance and pray that God would help us all to be the powerful and the inspired leaders He intends us to be. That's it for this episode of Inspired Leadership. You'll find a complete transcript of this episode on my website at www.ronkelleher.com. My prayer now is that you'll go out and be the powerful, inspired leader that God intends us to be.
Thanks for listening to the Inspired Leadership Podcast at www.ronkelleher.com.